Hey, this is Nick from Remedy667.com, the greatest place on the internet for horror fonts. Um, Today is Horror Font Friday, which means we're going to be putting together an alphabet. But today we're going to do something a little different. Normally, in a Horror Font Friday, what we would do is we would take like a movie poster, a book, or something that contains an old typeface and kind of complete the alphabet from there. But today, we're going to be going back in time to 31 Days of Horror Fonts, 2021, day 23 for Ghoulenstein, because I've been doing a little bit of cleaning and I'm not sure on the 100% of the count, but I guess at the time, this would have been in the top 3 for strictly Instagram, which is pretty interesting. But it hasn't been made yet, because back then I only made the top 1 font. This was just something I did, and then over time I'd kind of do others. But hey, we're gonna take a look at this. This is Ghoulenstein is the name of this font, and this is my original working file from 31 Days of Horror Fonts in 2021. Had each one laid out in the day. You can actually go back and watch me make all of these in this YouTube channel. That was the first year that I did it as well. So blah 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 blah. Another first that this is going to be is I'm going to not only am I going to do the alphabet, but I'm also going to put together some numbers and basic punctuation, and then try my best to get it up on the site to try and do a new type of format where I get it out. Just get it out. And because I make a lot of fonts and I don't finish a lot of fonts, but I start a lot, and I don't know. Either way, this is Ghoulenstein. Let's take a look at this messy file first. So, looks like we got a background. What do we got here? This looks like my original cut. So, this is what I made the font from. I just had these shapes. That's my background. Okay, so I'm going to take the shapes here, copy those, and I'm going to go to a new document altogether. And I have these backup shapes in case I need them. But first things first, we're going to chop this up the way we do nowadays anyway. And it looks like, hey, these are kind of grouped together, which is good. This L is out of control. ST. I wish I had a P. But I think we'll be fine. We'll figure it out. I've got this angled letter here that looks like we used in the N. Ooh, stomach's growling. This could be an R, you know, like that. I don't know. But let's build with what we have down here first. So, from what we got with a G, I can definitely make a C. So, I'm going to ungroup those. Command-Shift-G a billion times. Pull that H away. Group that. I'm going to keep this, because, oh, that O is gross. So I think I'm going to use this C again to make my D. And I'm going to switch it around, because see how this kind of goes to the straightened off version? I want that straightened off version. And this is actually kind of interesting, because this is something that I actually drew in the past, probably on tracing paper. Before I was like big into using the mouse more for drawing my shapes, but it's old meets new. All right, F. Gonna whoops, size that. I want to shrink that down a little bit, and I want to send it that way a little bit and down. I'm gonna ungroup these because this GH ligature foolishness. I will group that because it is useful. Group that. This one is gonna get way shorter. We're gonna skip the J and the K like we always do. Actually, this L is a little too cartoony, so I'm just gonna use an L based on here. And you know what? While I'm at this point, I'm going to make some guides. And name them baseline and cap height, which will be useful later for font self, which we will use to import these into glyphs. Are we even going to take these as far as glyphs if we're just throwing them together for an alphabet? You know, who knows? And I'm sorry, because today's probably going to be me jawing on even crazier, and it's going to last a lot longer because we're going to go, because this is just going a little more in depth with the building of the font. But I have Slither going on in the background because, you know, what else do you put on when you're making a font? So if that ends up ending before I'm finished, then we're all in trouble. This O is bad. I do like the cartooniness of the T. Cutting the mess off of that M a little bit, and I'm going to trim it down over here as well to there. And just this one's going to come in just a tiny bit. Oh. Group that. Uh-oh. They found us. I still am not happy with this O. And I feel like it's because I want this and to work more like that. Still looks bad. It's just too big at the bottom. I will be right back. I'm gonna get some water. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. So it looks like when we drew this one out, we did have this character up here, which is a little shorter. Ooh, and it looks like there was a K or an R. I'm going to do a quick side quest real quick. I don't even know. I don't even know what this was originally from. I'm looking at it, I'm like, Rocktober? I don't... If that's a thing. Get my R there. I want this to be a little better, but it's not being very smooth, which is frustrating. So I guess I just want this to be a little bit thinner. Still not totally happy with this O. But I feel like as a Q, that works a little better. R, S, T, U. Gonna bring that down a little bit. The V, that's gonna be my A, I think, and that's gonna be my V. I want this to bend that way a little bit. Delete that. Delete that. Group. Make that a W with my N. Delete that. What in the devil is happening? There we go. Group that. I want this A to be a little bit wider, but that one to be a little bit thinner. Holy moly. There's no B either? What am I doing? Alright. This is going to come up a little bit. We're going to grab the crossbar from our H, and actually we are going to change the angle of that one. Ungroup, whoops, zoomed in super far. Group A. Bring this up quite a bit for preparation for the B. Curve that in and maybe a little back out. Group that. We're going to get the J from the U. And this A, I like that A. But that A needs a lot more angle. See, this is a lot more incline, the rest of these letters. Build the J with the U and the S. Maybe not even the S. If I pull that out, that actually makes a pretty good J. Perfect. Alright, let's build the K since we have the R. And we'll delete that and grab the V. I'm going to cut that because I might actually need it. I want that to be a little wider and a little shorter, and we're going to rotate it back. That K doesn't really look that good, but if I bring it up, I just think I just manipulated that piece a little too much. There we go. We'll group that. Elemental P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W. Now all I have to do is X, Y, and Z. So we're going to need that for the Y. We're going to need that for the Z. That for the Z. And K is going to help us make the X. So transform, we're going to reflect these on the axis, and that's not going to be enough. That's going to have to tilt a little more, and it's going to have to rotate a lot because the Z is a lot. Group that, move, whoops. Ungroup that twice, move that out of the way. Group that, we're going to rotate that around. Group those, that's a pretty good looking X. And this is going to make our Y. All right, so we're 19 minutes in. Normally that takes us about 17 minutes to get through, so apparently having all the letters pretty much drawn already didn't help our cause at all. And you know what? Now that I'm looking at the T as the big cartoony, I want to build an alternate T. Cut that. I want it to be like that wide. And this side is also going to go down like that. And that is going to be our regular T. All right, so now step number 2. Now, I don't know if you've done this before or seen me do this before, but we're going to grab B, C, E, H, I, O, S. This is going to be so weird because of how bizarre these characters are. And the 7. And we're going to duplicate those. And I'm going to drag them way over here just to get myself out of trouble with everything. And I'm going to bring them all together. And now I'm going to divvy them up like we're playing a darn board game. And to do that, we're going to go O, 1, 1. S, E, B, H. Yes again. CO. Z. CO over here and a double O right here. And that is going to be our numbers. So to start that off, if you look at a keyboard, you'll always notice, maybe not always, but usually the number's a little more condensed, the 0 versus the O. So my first step is to grab that and just condense it up. And I actually want to block this here like that as well, because I want this piece to go a little better there. And we're going to smooth that out. I'm going to take these dots off of the eyes because we don't need them. That second eye is going to rotate that way a little bit. And around that way. And that just smoothed it a little bit better. Still don't like this that much. I'm going to have it go in lower like that. And that gets it looking more like a 1. 2 should be weird. We're going to actually, what we do is we reflect the S. And because the angle of this font, we're going to need to fix that angle. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and duplicate that. Not that E. That backwards S. Not that E. All right, just duplicate all of it. But I'm going to want that backwards S later for the question mark, which is going to be part of what we will include with our basic punctuation. So getting rid of those. This part of the 2. So the other question is, would it make more sense to have my 2 go all the way in over there? So it went more like this. I think that looks weird. I think it might make more sense later with the 5. I think that makes a little more sense with the 2. We'll group that, move that out of the way. Our B is actually pretty easy, or our 3 is actually pretty easy from the B. I do like to cut up a little bit into here, just to make that a little smaller. And sometimes this angle needs to come up a little bit, and this one needs to come down a little bit on the edge. But that looks all right. 4 is also pretty easy. We're just gonna cut it right there and actually move it out a little bit. 5, similar to the 2, goes up. I'm gonna keep that going up there, but get rid of the dive in that it's doing, and that becomes my 5 grouped. Pretty easy. 6, you just pull this down. Oh. Group that. 7 is pretty easy. You get rid of that. You move that over a little bit, and you just remove the angle a little bit. And when we remove the angle, you notice that got, whoa, that got a little wide. So we're going to rotate this and just slim it up a little bit. And that's our 7. 8 we will come back to. 9 is similar to the 6. I'm going to loop this one around like that, which is going to be interesting because it's actually going to make the 9 essentially just the 6 halved. Group that. All right, with an 8, a lot of times what I'll do is I'll drag up from the top, pull down to the bottom, make these that one style, you know. I want those to be in a little bit. That 8 looks ridiculous. That's got to move in a little bit, and that needs to be thicker, which seemed weird because it seemed... I'm going to make it thicker on the sides. And let's bring it up a little bit. I don't know, it doesn't look that bad. It just looks really thin compared to everything. So that's our number set. And now basic punctuation. Now basic punctuation, it would be nice to get a little bit of feedback on basic punctuation and what basic punctuation means to you. And it might mean something like it needs an S set, or it needs a tilde, or it needs, you know, a question mark, or it needs a hashtag or a number sign, whatever you call that these days, or an @ symbol. Like, what's your basic punctuation? For the time being, what I'm going to start with for basic punctuation is going to be just literally my punctuation marks. So let me know in the comments if you want some more. And if you do want some more, let me know what you want, because I'm not a mind reader, and I have spent I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out like what the best punctuation would be, and I still can't figure it out. I look at what other people do. Sometimes it's really good, sometimes it's really meh. This comma is going to work like that. So there we go. We're going to duplicate those. And I want to move that one like that a little bit and down. For our colon and semicolon, that's going to go up. For my quote, I'm actually going to make it a little bit smaller. And my double quote, I like to, as you know, make it a little bit different there. Now, all I have left for my basic punctuation is going to be an exclamation point and a question mark. And if you remember earlier, we saved this backwards S to make our question mark. So this is how this is going to go down. I feel like that angle's a little too intense. So that's the new angle. I'm going to cut that in the middle, bring this up, raise this a little above the cap height, which it doesn't necessarily need to be, but I think it's going to work with some of the weird cartoony shapes of this font, like thinking of the future. Stuff we're not making now. I'm going to group that. And then I make the inverted one at the same time, because that is the easiest time to make it. And I also realize that it is completely stupid to make an inverted exclamation point and question mark, since I have no tilde. So this wouldn't work in Spanish anyway. But there you have it. All right, where are we at now? That took about a half an hour to get our alphabet. Let's take a look at everything we got. Got our full alphabet. Our initial number set. And then our basic punctuation. Whatever qualifies as that. And then some gibberish, because we like gibberish. So that's Ghoulenstein. First take on that. Yeah. Check out remedy667.com for more. That was Horror Font Friday, the super long extended version. You know, it still needs a little bit of work, but we will clean it up. But for now, we're going to try and get it posted up on the site. I will see you next week. Take it easy. You're awesome.